I know that you're managing everything in your home from your smart home ecosystem to your kids' screen time. But lately, do you know that the biggest tech headache isn't the Wi Fi going down? It's the massive spike in sophisticated digital scams targeting our two most vulnerable family generations, and that is our kids and our senior or aging parents. So, today we're taking a look at the red flags for scams that you should be teaching your kids and the seniors in your life. You are the sandwich generation. You are responsible for managing your kids' tech and your parents' tech. So, scammers know this and they are targeting hard both ends of the spectrum with vastly different tactics. And you're responsible for teaching both how that looks, what red flags that they should be looking for, and the type of scams that will be targeting them. So don't worry, I'm going to help you have those conversations today. So, the first generation that we're going to tackle is the seniors. So, your aging parents. They are highly targeted for scams these days. My grandma, even 10 years ago, got a call from my brother saying that he was in an accident or went to jail and needed money to bail him out. Now, this was 10 years ago, so it didn't necessarily sound exactly like my brother. But with AI these days, it can sound exactly like the grandchild. So, scammers find lists of people in this target demographic and go to work because they're often very successful. So, what kind of red flags do you need to tell them to watch out for? First one would be impersonation. So, are they impersonating the IRS, the local police department, any other type of government agencies? Most of the time, those people are not calling you. They'll send you a letter in the mail. They'll have a police officer come to your home. So, they're not going to be calling you on the phone. So, scammers pretend to be IRS, Social Security, maybe even their bank or tech support, and they are demanding immediate action. And so that's the next red flag that they should be aware of is urgency. Is the person telling me I have to do this right away? And because the urgency creates a world where you're not really thinking through the problem and you're like, oh, wait, that actually doesn't make sense. The urgency makes you react before you have time to actually think about it. So impersonation and urgency. And then along with the impersonation is going to be this AI trend. So grandchild in trouble, where scammers are using an AI voice to clone or mimic a grandchild needing bail, or they crashed their car and they need money. So there's a lot of different ways that they can approach that. So again, they're not only going to be impersonating government agencies, they're going to impersonate members of their family. So the couple things to let them know about that. I mean, obviously, first you're going to teach them about those different types of scams. And then you're going to let them know first, don't act on anything immediately without checking with somebody first. If they said, you have to do this right away, okay, I need to call, I'm going to call my grandkid or I'm going to call somebody to verify this before we go any further. So if it's like the IRS, okay, I'm going to look up the IRS's actual phone number and give them a call. Or it's the police department. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and hang up and call my local police department just to verify this information. If it's legit, they're going to be like, fine, that's great. Go ahead and call. And then don't have them look up those numbers. Make sure they find those numbers in legitimate sources. So the city's actual website, where it's, I live in Lehigh, lehigh-city.gov or something like that. So make sure they always verify any information before acting. And then teach them about AI, how they should not believe their eyes or ears anymore, that AI videos and AI audio is sounding more and more convincing. So tell them to just question anything they see or hear, no matter how real it seems. And you might go overboard, but I would rather question the legitimacy of a real video or audio recording than to fall for something that is fake. So I mentioned this in my recent podcast too. Also, create a password. As a kid in the 80s, we had a password for our family growing up because everyone was scared of kidnappers in white vans, right? So we had a password that said, if somebody comes to pick you up, said, your mom wants me to take you to the hospital where she's at. She asked me to come get you. Okay, what is the family password? And if they don't know the family password, then you're not getting in that car. But the same thing we can teach our aging parents. If you get a phone call from somebody claiming to be a member of your family, here is the family password that they should know. So if they don't have the password, then they don't get to continue the conversation. You would hang up at that point. When we had the family password as a kid, so maybe it can even be the same password if you remember it. I really don't even remember our password. I think it was cinnamon toast. I think that's what our family password was. I'm going to have to check with my family on that. Make sure you just have a password so that they can verify any information. So while no one's calling our kids to tell them their mom needs money or to tell them that the IRS is calling and they owe taxes because they're kids, they are just as targeted for attacks, but it's going to be very different approaches. So there's entirely different red flags that they should be aware of. So these scams are going to be more around digital peer pressure and gaming exploits. So one of the biggest red flags is free in-game currency. So they've got a video or a link that's promising, Fortnite V-Bucks or Robux or something like that. If they just download this app or input a parent's credit card or any number of ways to get access to that free download or whatever. We'll tell you exactly how to mitigate these, but let's go over some of the red flags. So big red flag is they're offering you basically something for nothing. And then the stranger danger, disguised as a gamer, scammers posing as kids on Discord, offering to trade skins or offering other benefits if they give them their username and password for their account, and then the child transfers ownership of the account to the attacker. Another big one that happens among teenagers, unfortunately, is sextortion scams. So a teenager gets a text from somebody, oh, sorry, it's the wrong number. And they're like, oh, you seem nice. And then they start this conversation and start this relationship. Oh, yeah, I'm 14 too, et cetera, et cetera. And then they have them send an inappropriate image. And then once they get that inappropriate image, that's when the scammer turns on a dime and says, I'm going to send this to everybody you know unless you give me money. And so sextortion is a really big one for them to watch out for. So how I would approach this with the kids too is to help them understand that people online aren't always who they say they are. So assume that any person that they have not actually met in real life is a creepy 40-year-old guy behind the computer. So assuming this can probably save them a lot of headache. Even if they say they're a 17-year-old girl, a 13-year-old girl, whatever, everybody that you meet online, just picture a 40-year-old guy who's overweight and balding. That's how they should approach any stranger that they are interacting with online. You're also going to teach them the concept of if it's too good to be true, it probably is. So nobody's just going to give you a reward or objects in the game or anything for nothing in return. So just assume that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And as you're discussing these different types of scams and these red flags to look out for and how to kind of approach those red flags, you also want to help them understand that they can come to you for anything. So if they are questioning if something is legit, they can come ask you. If they fell for something and they are embarrassed that they have fallen for this scam, they also can come talk to you. And especially in the cases of the sextortion, if they made a mistake, sent an inappropriate picture, let them know if that ever happened. And please, let's prevent that from happening. But if it happens, then please come talk to me. We will work out something. We will fix it together. And whether that fixes, especially if they fell for some sort of gaming scandal and then a scammer has taken over their account, a consequence of that might be that they lose access to their account. And you guys can try to work together to get it back, but there could be a possibility that they lose that. So again, make sure to set those expectations and make sure you're on the same page that if they do fall for something, to please come talk to you about it before they do anything. So while we've called out some individual scams that target both the younger generation and the older generation, what are some universal red flags to watch out for? So I have a new kind of acronym for you, and that is HATE, because we hate scams. So let's take this HATE acronym and apply that to making sure we're not falling for any scams. So HATE, first, the H stands for hyperlinks. Don't click on any hyperlinks, especially if they look a little shady. If you get an email with a hyperlink, definitely don't click on it there. If you can hover over the hyperlink and see that it might look a little off. It's got a 1 instead of where an L should be and things like that. So check out the URL. Make sure hyperlinks are exactly what they should say they are. Go directly to the website. Don't click on the hyperlink. So that's the H in HATE. Next is ask. If they are asking for unusual payment types, so gift cards, cryptocurrency, wire transfers, asking for unusual tasks. So whether that is a payment method or asking you to do something that you normally wouldn't, that's the ask. So that is the A, is ask. T is time pressure. So most scams will want you to react right away. So before you have a chance to think about it. So the time pressure, the urgency that is requested is going to be a huge red flag. So time is the T in HATE. And then E, emotion. Are they trying to make you scared, panicked, excited? So the emotion that they are trying to evoke is going to be a red flag in any types of scams. So that is the HATE method. We hate scams. So we're going to go hyperlink, ask for strange payment types, time pressure, and emotion. So hopefully that acronym can kind of stick in both of your child's heads, your parents' heads, maybe even your head. So tech is an incredible tool for connection, but it's important to make sure we can spot scams and be able to do some critical thinking about the things we encounter online, as well as putting some tech in place to help us fall for scams. But we really need that critical thinking portion because technology is not going to save us from ourselves. If you didn't know, most company breaches happen because somebody in the company fell for a scam. So the biggest liability that you have in any of these attacks is the human element. So make sure you fortify that human element. And I'd love to hear in the comments any scams that you've almost fallen for, have fallen for. What scams are your kids falling for or your aging parents falling for? Want to hear all about it in the comments below. So make sure you let us know. And hopefully, as we work together, we can prevent all the rest of us from falling for any scams. So as always, I'm here to help you understand the technology in your home so that you can get back to living the life you want to live. And until next time, Family Tech powering down.